Welcome back, tribe. Got an interesting one here. You are one conversation away from a completely different life. Newell of knowledge. Let's see.
It's 2018 and I'm walking through the streets of Amsterdam. I'm 18 years old and it's the first day of my solo travel around Europe, backpacking. I was traveling for about 1 month. It was early in the morning. It was a cold September's day in Amsterdam. The streets were alive with the sound of people shopping, traveling, touristically endeavoring through the streets. And I had arrived the night before and I had the whole day free to myself. I was couch surfing around a local's house and he had recommended me to, if I was up for it, try the local truffles. Now, truffles are a psychedelic, which are a little bit less intense than the typical magic mushrooms. They still contain psilocybin within them, but they're a little bit less intense. My one rule when I was traveling was to say yes to absolutely everything that came my way, every opportunity, apart from heroin and every other drug, apart from magic mushrooms.
I'm headed to Thailand and I'll be having some mushroom drinks on the beach, on the islands, enjoying myself, seeing pretty colors and doing some deep inner work. I can't wait.
So I said yes. So I woke up. I went to the local shop where you could buy these truffles and I spoke to the locals about which ones they would recommend me to take. Because I was 18 years old, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. There were variations within the intensity of the truffles that you could take. The space shuttles were the top ones, so I decided to take the first level. I wanted to start slowly. I had the whole day ahead of me, like I said, so I thought I'd better get some food. And I bought some weed brownies, which were only somatic, so you only felt the physical sensations, not the cognitive sensations. So I walked through the streets, I was playing my music, it was about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, I want some nature. So I went to a local park and I sat down.
Beautiful.
And I took the mushrooms. They tasted horrible, but I thought, This is what you do. When in Rome, have some truffles. And I sat up against a tree, but I realised I'm pretty hungry. And it's been an hour. The truffles haven't even kicked in yet. Usually it takes about 1 hour, 1.5 hours for them to kick in. So I thought, I'm going to go on a walk. And I started walking and I was quite far from the park that I had arrived in. And I realised that the only food I had on me was the weed brownies. So I had one, didn't satisfy my hunger, so I had 4. All of a sudden, I was waiting for the brownies to kick in and the mushrooms to kick in as well. And I thought I'd better make it back to safe ground. So I walked back to the park and leant up against a tree. I laid there an hour and a half after I had taken the brownies and the mushrooms, and I stared at the grass, and suddenly the grass started dancing and waving in the wind. And I thought, oh no, it's happening. And I closed my eyes, and for the next 3 hours, I tripped out of my mind and spoke to some woman of the universe where she asked me what I wanted, and I didn't know what to respond. And I woke up from the trip, still tripping and wanting to write it all down, went to articulate what I was experiencing in words, and just realised I had no idea how to explain this trip in words. And then I realised I'm alone in a country I've never been in before. I know no one here, and this is the first day of me traveling completely alone around Europe, and I'm 18 years old. And suddenly I started to get really paranoid with loneliness, and I started to feel this overwhelming sensation of wanting to connect with people, but feeling so distant from how everyone else was walking about their day-to-day business, just completely unaffected with what I was feeling inside, and this desire to talk to them and be a part of their journey. And I started to feel very lonely and very sad. But then I had a thought, right, I need to return home. I contemplated it for 20 minutes. I thought I was going to go back to the couch surfing house that I was staying in, pack up all my stuff, and then travel back to the UK and admit defeat on the first day and realised that I longed for the comforts of home. But then I continued walking through the streets and unpacking this in my mind, still on the mushroom trip, but not as hallucinogenic. I was just feeling the after effects of the...
I've tripped on mushrooms too, guys, countless times, especially with all the boys going on hikes and stuff. I've had transformational experience on them. Can't recommend them to you because they're illegal. Do your own due diligence. For me, it changed my life. Probably led to the YouTube channel being a thing. Just one of the many ideas and realizations you had on mushrooms. It's deep inner work where you think about the foundational truths of who you are. I mean, really at your core, who are you besides your name? What do you want besides what everybody else told you to want? How do you feel about yourself besides all the experiences that you've culminated up until this point that tells you how you should feel about yourself? All your insecurities melt away. The ego death is a crazy thing to experience. You finally shed all the things that weigh you down, and you're able to have a real honest conversation or see your experiences without being weighted down by said effects of the experiences. Everybody I've ever talked to that has also done them has had very similar experiences. You may cry. You may have intense emotional feelings about things that you've dealt with, the trauma from your past. Regardless, you come out on the other side. At least I did. Can't speak for anybody else, obviously. I did. I would say a completely different person in the sense of no longer chained down by my insecurities and expectations of everybody else. And I started going after what I wanted 100% with full self-belief, irrelevant of what everybody else, which is very freeing to get into that kind of mentality. I let go of a lot of pain. I let go of a lot of grudges, insecurities that people had placed on me based on my experiences with them. And just it's limiting set of beliefs about what would be attainable, what is possible to achieve because of my preconceived notions about myself. Oh, you're just some stupid kid from a small part of the world. You can't do this. Oh, you don't belong with these other multimillionaires here. This is just another level of society. You're not it. You're something different, something beneath them. Or for example, you get the imposter syndrome. Like even when you do make it, you don't feel like you belong. Things like that. I don't know. Like I said, I've done them countless times, quite literally countless time, hero doses. And I can't wait to go to Thailand to do them again because they literally refresh the soul. They've made me more spiritual. I was self-declared atheist, you would say before, but now I do believe in a higher power. Something far greater is out there. Just don't know what. None of the books that we have, the major 3 that are left, can do an accurate job of explaining it. But we all have a sense that something is out there. I don't believe in any of the churches because they're all corrupt. They're all led by human beings. But I do feel connected to something larger than myself. And I don't know, it makes you behave in a different way. It made me far more laser focused or locked in, as people say. You get out of your bad habits in terms of if you're stuck in a loop where you do really good and then let your foot off the gas. That was my problem. I would get, super excited about an idea or something like getting fit and getting shredded and all this. And I would get there. And then I would reward myself with bad shit like burgers and all that because of a pat on the back. Good job, you did it. And then I would spiral out of control and be back to a baseline I didn't want to be at. So then I would have to work hard again. And then this was the loop I was in instead of maintaining my gains or maintaining whatever it was that I had gotten in life. So my experiences helped me resolve what that was so I could be able to maintain that. But I've been, since moving here and since leaving Arizona where I used to do them a lot, it's something that leaves you, because time wipes away that emotional spike you get, that experience, the memories, they start to fade. So I need to go back in, do some more deep self-work and get back to that point again where I'm ultra consistent, laser focused. And they helped me with depression and anxiety. I mean, I got rid of a whole bunch of stuff. I was feeling a bit down. The world was looking gray. Didn't feel like I had a purpose. Nothing felt fulfilling. And then, the path starts to brighten forward, at least for me. Like I said, I'm not recommending anything. I am just simply sharing what my experience was doing them. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. I'm just being on. I can't get into fully all the stuff on YouTube for obvious reasons, but to each their own.
Emotional high, and I was slowly coming out the other side of a 3-hour trip. And in the distance, across the canal, about 100 meters in front of me, I saw a man sitting on a bench. And I was wrapped up in social anxiety at this point because I knew the typical way to speak to someone is just to go up to them and speak to them. But I felt like I had no capacity to do that. But I continued to fix my gaze on this man who was sat there in the sun on a bench by himself, smoking a big joint. He had dreadlocks as long as his torso. And I thought, that's my chance. He's my opportunity for connection. So I made the pilgrimage to him. I walked 100 meters, continuously ruminating in my head, how am I going to start this conversation? How am I going to start this conversation? How am I going to start this conversation? Continuously seeing everyone going about their day, getting even more overwhelmed with the experience of being alone. And I thought, I have no idea. I'm just going to go up to him. So I went up to him, but in the most awkward way I could possibly imagine. This man who sat there enjoying the sun, just reveling in the bliss of life. I went up to him and I said, excuse me? And he went, yes. And I said, I'm really lonely. Can I have a conversation with you? And he went, yeah, of course. Sit down. And suddenly I was accepted back into the social world and I could sit down and we spoke for 3 hours. He was a Colombian man who had just finished his shift at work and he had really been embracing simplicity and providing for his family and being able to give himself an hour a day to just sit in the park and just enjoy himself and revel in the bliss of life. And I spoke about my experience of the loneliness that I felt. We dissected the trip that I'd had a little bit and what lied ahead of me in my travels. And I gave him the rest of my truffles, probably enough to sedate the whole of Amsterdam, but he was very welcome. He was very welcoming to the fact that I gave him a gift. So I thanked him for the conversation and I said goodbye. And I felt such an exhilaration when I was walking back after that conversation I had had with that man. I felt such accomplishment, I felt such acceptance, and I felt such connection as well that I couldn't stop smiling. I felt so happy I began to become paranoid of my happiness because I walked past a girl after and she smiled at me and all of a sudden I was thinking, oh my God, I'm back in the social world, I'm back. And I realized that all it takes is one conversation for your life to change completely. Because a month after that first day of me traveling and having that crisis of meaning, albeit brought on by a mushroom trip completely alone in a country I've never been in before, but after that conversation with this man, I had the best month of my whole life. And I think if I never had that conversation with that man, I probably would have turned home and not met a lot of the friends that I have today and I wouldn't have been able to sit in front of you today and be able to tell you this story. So dissecting this story, I want to emphasize the point of going first, going positive and being constant in doing it. Because there's a common phrase that your fulfillment or your happiness is on the other side of fear. I agree with that. But I also think there's a social element as well. Regardless of whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, or if you feel awkward in social conversations, or you struggle in initiating social conversations, your fulfillment, your contentment, your happiness, your joy in life is on the side of on the other side of one conversation. Now, when I reflect on my other things that have happened in my life, a lot of them, as I usually say, have come from a place of stillness and not grasping. But a lot of the opportunities that have come my way have literally just come from me sparking up a conversation with someone out of sheer curiosity.
Also, some interesting things happen. Like we've had this realization recently in the private community in one of our calls. So I was telling guys that you need to give up the notion of like work-life balance when you're trying to build and getting ahead. But that what we're really doing here is changing your mentality to be able to see the opportunities all around you. And the opportunities could be really small things. Most people say opportunities like they're stuck on financials, right? Like money, making money. But things like this conversation, friends or realizations, those are also doors. There's golden doors all around you at all times, but you're not in the mindset of seeing them. You need a mentality switch. So what some of the guys recognized and they were saying is that after the conversations we had about building businesses and stuff like that is we tore down someone's sales pitch and altered their mentality on how they see the value they're bringing, how they need to pitch, the confidence they need to have, what they need to do, like going out there in person. And he reported that from that simple mentality switch of going 110%, forgetting about balance, letting fear go, just going after your dreams, he started approaching people selling his product. And sure enough, he ended up getting more clients in one day than he did with weeks, a month. I can't remember how long it was of spending, blowing all his budget on like AdSense, online advertisements in one day in person. And he had a moment, I believe, shout outs to Matu for this. He had a moment where he was walking past, I believe it was like a barbershop or some shop. And there were some guys out there. And he was like, I should be done for the day. I won't approach them or anything. And then he had that moment, a little mentality switch where he said, forget this. I'm just going to go. whatever, why not? 110%. And ended up closing on them. Had a great productive conversation, which is building more confidence, which is allowing you to perform better, which is giving you more positive results, which is this thing is like a feedback loop. Guys, your life can change. He's saying specifically for our one conversation, but your mentality, simply changing how you see things, your perspective, and putting in a little bit of effort can yield incredible results, life-changing differences in your life. And they're all around you at all times. Dude, it could be something simple as striking up a conversation with the barista girl. It could be saying hello to the old man that's at your job and has a ton of experience for the position you may be angling for. And he can give you the ins, or you become friends, and then he recommends you for his position or a position right under him, or you're just one small move away from a complete adjustment in trajectory in life. But these small moves are everywhere. They're like branches. They just literally branch out into different alternate realities of what your life could be had you taken the step through the door. And those doors are all over the place. Not every door has to be, I'm going to become a multi-billionaire, super rich, helicopter pads at my house. And that's not what we're saying. There's just small opportunities that improve your quality of life in ways you can't imagine until you step through the door. It's just so many people are blinded because of these things, guys. Like I'm telling you, this thing is designed to take your attention away. It fights for your attention every day. Because it fights for your attention every day, you're blinded to everything going around you. You scroll on TikTok, you scroll on Instagram, all the reels, adult entertainment, whatever shows, all that stuff. Everything you're watching and consuming, when you're consuming, it takes away time from or your ability to see the opportunities in front of you. Quite literally, you are distracted from building a better life for yourself. Once you come to these kinds of realizations, you'll start using this less and less for consumption and more for productivity, more as a tool. It's a double-edged weapon, you know? It has its benefits and it has its negatives, like all things. Anyways, that was a little quip from the private community. I'll leave his channel up here in the description below as usual if you guys want to watch the rest of the conversation, Newell of Knowledge. And if you enjoy more episodes like this, please keep recommending them. I like stuff like this. This one was very positive and we need more of that. If you're interested in the private conversations that we have weekly, 5 times a week, head over to the second channel and see some of them. The latest episode shows what the community chats look like, sound like. And if that toots your horn, links are in the description below to sign up. Otherwise, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.